Hello and welcome to another analysis behind the news, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. Last week, President Trump ordered the immediate withdrawal of American troops from Syria, where they had been fighting ISIS. The Trump administration announced that some 2,000 troops will be removed as quickly as possible. Trump tweeted that troops had defeated ISIS in the area, so it was time to come home. And wouldn't you think that would be a cause for a celebration, especially for the families of those troops who probably look at this as an early Christmas gift? Well, some in Congress didn't see it that way. Media reports that some senators were not happy about not being consulted or told about this ahead of time. Senator Lindsey Graham called this a huge Obama-like mistake. And according to Politico, Senator Marco Rubio stated, "When the U.S. pulls out of Syria, we are basically turning the country over to the Russians and to Iran, and primarily to Iran." Neoconservative pundits and appointed military and security advisors were also incredulous regarding the decision. And some in the neocon media said on talk radio that the whole idea of fighting enemies on foreign soil is to avoid having to fight them on domestic soil. They defended having military bases in foreign countries, and they disagreed with the president's decision, saying that ISIS will fill the vacuum left by American troops. Now, the New American magazine summed this up very well in an article by Steve Bias, who wrote, "Exactly how long after ISIS is defeated American troops should stay in a foreign nation without any authorization by Congress and without the permission of the Syrian government has not been detailed by Harris, Mattis, Graham, and Bolton. But Trump was wildly applauded by many of this same crowd when he was persuaded by his advisors, including his own daughter Ivanka, to bomb Syrian targets last year in response to allegations that the Assad government has used chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war." He continues, "This is because to many of the foreign policy establishment, while the official purpose of American involvement in Syria may have been to defeat ISIS, the removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad from power has also been a long-standing goal. In other words, conflicts such as that occurring in Syria are often used as a pretext to increase the power of international organizations, particularly the United Nations. UN resolutions have called for a new constitution and new elections in Syria, and the foreign policy establishment sees America as the principal enforcer of such resolutions." Exactly right. It was President Washington and Jefferson that advocated practicing the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. Washington wrote in his 1796 farewell address, "'Tis our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliance with any portion of the foreign world." And President Jefferson wrote in his inaugural address in 1801, "Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none." They understood the heavy responsibility of sovereignty, of protecting ours and respecting others as well. And it was President John Quincy Adams who made this crystal clear in his Independence Day address to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1821. First, he read the Declaration of Independence, and then he commented on its importance to the nation. And about halfway through, he said, and bear with me, this is not easy reading through this, so give me a little latitude here, thanks. "But never, never for a moment have the great principles consecrated by the Declaration of this day been renounced or abandoned. And now, friends and countrymen, if the wise and learned philosophers of the older world, the first observers of mutation and aberration, the discoverers of maddening ether and invisible planets, the inventors of concave rockets and shrapnel shells, should find their hearts disposed to inquire, what has America done for the benefit of mankind? Let our answer be this: America, with the same voice which spoke herself into existence as a nation, proclaimed to mankind the inextinguishable rights of human nature and the only lawful foundations of government. America, in the assembly of nations, since her admission among them, has invariably, though often fruitlessly, held forth to them the hand of honest friendship, of equal freedom, and of generous reciprocity. She has uniformly spoken among them, though often to heedless and often to disdainful ears, the language of equal liberty, equal justice, and equal rights. She has, in the lapse of nearly a century, half a century, without a single exception, respected the independence of other nations while asserting and maintaining her own. She has abstained from interference in the concerns of others, even when the conflict has been for principles to which she clings, as to the last vital drop that visits the heart. She has seen that probably for centuries to come, all the contestants of all that academia, the European world, will be contest between inveterate power and emerging right. Whenever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will be her heart, her benedictions and her prayers be. But she does not abroad in search of monsters to destroy. She is the well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all. She is the champion and vindicator only of her own. She will recommend the general cause by the countenance of her voice and the benignant sympathy of her example. She well knows that by once enlisting under other banners than her own, were they even the banners of foreign independence, she would involve herself beyond the power of extraction in all the wars of interest and intrigue, of individual variance, envy, and ambition, which assume the colors and usurp the standard of freedom. The fundamental maxims of her policy would insensibly change from liberty to force. The frontlet upon her brows would no longer beam with the ineffable splendor of freedom and independence, but in its stead would soon be substituted an imperial diadem, flashing in false and tarnished luster, the murky radiance of dominion and power. She might become the dictatress of the world. She would no longer the ruler of her own spirit be. That's some pretty powerful stuff. And further on into his speech, he wraps up by saying, "It is not by the contrivance of agents of destruction that America wishes to commend her inventive genius to the admiration or the gratitude of after times, nor is it even by the detection of the secrets or the composition, of new modifications of physical nature. Nor even is her purpose the power or the glory of Roman ambition, nor her memento to her sons. Her glory is not dominion, but liberty. Her march is the march of mind. She has a spear and a shield, but the motto upon her shield is freedom, independence, peace. This has been her declaration. This has been as far as her necessary intercourse with the rest of mankind would permit her practice. My countrymen, fellow citizens, and friends, could that spirit which dictated the declaration we have this day read, that spirit which prefers before all temples the upright heart and pure, at this moment descend from his habitation in the skies and within this hall, in language audible to mortal ears, address each one of us here assembled, our beloved country, Britannia, ruler of the waves, and every individual among the sceptered lords of humankind, his words would be, "Go thou and do likewise." Noticed, he referenced an upright heart and pure, and not one of proud prowess to spread democracy, as many current day politicians on both sides of the political aisle have mentioned as an excuse to wage war. Folks, America is not the world's policeman. We should not be enforcing any international resolutions nor get involved in treaties that commit American troops to serve on foreign soil. We should only be stepping onto foreign soil as ambassadors in friendship. And when troops must be dedicated to defending America, let it happen with a declaration of war from Congress. Without this, we end up right where we are at, in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades. Think of how mighty America might be if we had employed our founders' advice. Now, we applaud President Trump for bringing home American troops. Let it be a beginning of many, many more troops coming home. Now, to get a better sense of why we see all the chaos that we do in the Middle East, we recommend reading In the Shadows of the Deep State, a century of counsel on foreign relations scheming for world government. It's a new book that JBS CEO Arthur Thompson has just published. Links are in the video description, so please like and share this video and sign up for our news and action alerts. You're also invited to apply for membership in the John Birch Society if you're not yet a member. And until next time, we'll see you then.